debate feature here on the Move, and today we're looking at law as part of the debate. South Africa's Constitutional Court has recently ruled that antenuptial contracts signed after a customary marriage are invalid unless they undergo judicial approval under the Matrimonial Property Act. And in practical terms, this means that if a couple first married under customary law, typically recognized automatically as a marriage in community of property, they can't later override that marital property regime simply by signing a civil antenuptial contract without court oversight. And this has sparked a lot of debate here in South Africa. Of course, laws all across the continent coexist with customary norms and different laws for customary as well as statutory law. And today we're looking at this as the debate topic. Do uniform marriage laws help protect spouses, or do they erode valued cultural norms? Well, helping us in today's debate is Promise Makunyane, who's an author and podcaster who herself changed her marriage contract form in community of property to out of community of property, and she explores this in a book that she's launching. We're also joined by Kwa-Nobamba Zulu, someone who is not a stranger to the show, marriage counselor and founder of Kwa-Nobamba Family, Spiritual and Mental Wellness Institute. Thank you to both of you for joining us this morning. But I'm going to start with you, Promise. Let's hear your opening statements on this particular debate and what your thoughts are on whether or not uniform marriage laws help protect spouses or whether they erode valued cultural norms. Good morning.
Morning, Palesa. Thank you so much for this platform. Good morning to every listener and every viewer. My name is Promise Makunyane, as they've already said. I truly believe that uniform laws are here to actually protect spouses within marriages, especially women, and any spouse that is economically vulnerable, I do not think at any point, shape, or form the existence of uniform laws are here to erode our cultural norms, but instead they are here to create a safety net for especially women, and let me tell you, I myself have changed my own marital contract from in community to out of community, and it was not because of the badness that is happening in my marriage, but it was to protect. It was a vision for where we are going in my household. So I truly believe that uniform laws are here to protect the much more vulnerable spouse within the marriage, which is most cases the woman. So I truly believe the uniform laws can work hand in hand with our culture. As far as culture informs how we should get married, the laws, the government need to govern how should anything go wrong, what needs to happen that is going to equally protect the spouse, especially the wife. So I truly am in support of the uniform law, not because I'm a woman, but because I stand purely for equality. Women in marriages, they sacrifice themselves, as much as now we've got a lot of working wives, but let me tell you, even the working wives still get home to do their chores, still get home to take care of their kids, as opposed to the husband, So these laws are very important for the wives especially, but in a nutshell, just for both spouses to equally benefit.
All right, let's see the other side of this conversation. Mkhulu Zulu is there on the line. What's your take on this topic?
Good morning to Mama Kunyane and the listeners out there. I think my starting point is, before we can even talk about what happens and what does not happen in marriages, when people get married, do they even know what they're doing? Do people understand what marriage means? Because that's the starting point. That's where we need to start. People get married out of excitement, out of all sorts of things, but mostly they don't get married because they understand what marriages mean. That is why today the rate of divorce is so high, and people now need to protect themselves. I mean, there wouldn't be any need for any spouse to protect themselves if they understood before they got married why they are getting married and what it means. So today, we have made marriage look like a transaction, that you are doing a business deal, where you need to be protected because divorce is always ultimate in most marriages. So people get married knowing that they're going to divorce. So that is why they see a need to protect themselves. The Constitutional Court has not done anything out of the ordinary. They were just reminding us that customary marriage is legal and it exists, and that people tend to jump around and want to replace our culture with the Western culture, or maybe because Africans don't have enough confidence about their own cultures that they, when you get married customarily, you still feel a need to go and sign some contracts or do some other kinds of marriages, maybe to be sure that you are really married. There's many people I know who are married customarily, and they live in harmony. And if you read the Customary Marriage Act 120 of 1998, it protects the vulnerable people. That is the reason why that act, why there was a need for that act. So it does everything that any marriage is supposed to be doing, but people still go out after getting married culturally. They still want to go and sign new contracts and all that. So I think it's good that we've had this case, Yabo Black Coffee, so that it can educate people about the confidence in your own culture, and also understanding marriages before we get into marriages. Don't try to understand marriage when you are already in trouble. It's nicer to understand what marriage means in my culture before you get into the marriage.
Well,
that's my starting point.
Let's bring it back here, Mkhulu. I think that's a great starting point for both of you. But we have very varied cultures here in South Africa, and all of them might be similar in some sort of way, but they also have their differences and their own little micro laws within it. So do you think having one standardized law, is in line with that, or does it erode the fact that our cultures are there and they're not the same? Should we have different laws for different cultures? How do you think about that line between what law is and what culture actually looks like?
Okay, look, I don't think our cultures are different. What is different is customs. It's the practice. Our cultures are the same. African culture is the same culture. The practice is different according to Igosho. So we need to understand that. One of the reasons why your Indian community, your Arabs, Islamic community, your Chinese community, and the Jewish community are so strong and powerful, it's because they believe in their own culture and they practice their own culture to the latter. From birth of a child to marriage, even to death, that's what they practice. Their culture is their religion. With us Africans, we are made to choose between two things. Your own culture, you are choosing between your own identity and somebody else's identity, and you end up finding yourself practicing both your culture and somebody else's culture. That is why we get so confused. That is why Africa is such a weak continent, because we're not sure of ourselves. We should be the ones who are strengthening the cultural marriage by designing laws. We are in parliament now, by designing laws that will protect the vulnerable, not go and borrow from another culture so we can protect our own people. Because that's what we're doing now. If you say you must get married culturally, customarily, and also get married in a Western way, because you want to protect your vulnerable people, it means then you do not have confidence in your own culture, and it means we can't sit down as Africans and say, now that there is divorce and now that our women are vulnerable, maybe they are the biggest losers when we don't protect them. What laws can we put in place to make sure we protect them, but still the marriage becomes a single culture marriage? Because we take our marriage from our foundation. Marriage is not just an idea that came out. Marriage comes from culture and it is very spiritual. That is why we go through the processes of lobola. That is why umakoti mayengeniswe akhishwa kube sibayeni azongeniswe ekhaya. Kune process yakhona, there's customs that we follow.
All right,
to do all
Mkhulu, I'm going to stop you there for a bit. We need to take a break and we'll come back with Promise Makunyane and Kwa-Nobamba Zulu, as well as you. Let's find out where you stand in today's debate. Do uniform marriage laws help protect spouses, or do they erode valued cultural norms?
Conversations are happening, and Channel Africa is at the heart of them. We tell the African story with clarity, pride, and purpose, reaching audiences that matter to your brand. Partner with us and connect your business with listeners across borders in multiple languages and markets. For partnership opportunities, sponsorship, or sales, email us at partnership@channelafrica.co.za. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
On the Move, weekdays, 9 a.m. to midday.
Only on Channel Africa. #On the Move.
We're having a very nuanced debate today right here on The African View, speaking to our guests who are helping us understand this question. Do uniform marriage laws help protect spouses, or do they erode valued cultural norms? We are joined by Promise Makunyane, author and podcaster, and Kwa-Nobamba Zulu is a marriage counselor and founder of Kwa-Nobamba Family Spiritual and Mental Wellness Institute. Coming back to you, Promise, it's an interesting presentation from both of you on the reasons why, and I think they're very different in their backdrop, right? Because Kwa-Nobamba Zulu is saying these things are happening at times because of a misunderstanding of our own cultures, but also not understanding what the union of marriage is. But do you think it's more than just what marriage is, that we have to have this kind of uniform laws that protect us in marriage?
I was listening to Mkhulu, of which I 100% agree with a lot of things that she said. However, I truly believe that culture needs to evolve in some way, shape, or form. And we're not saying it needs to evolve and adapt to what is happening now because it's going to lose its essence. However, it needs to understand that the people that live within it have evolved, Back in the days, our parents, our mothers were not working, right? And our dads were the ones that were working. Now we've got wives that are out there working just as much as the husbands are working, meaning that a lot of cultural norms, a lot of how we did things need to really evolve, So I really believe that there need to be uniform laws that now protecting the union, because it's no longer the same. As much as we got married, we are lobolat, we understand everything that has to do within the marriage. However, we are different people now. I'm not my mother, Back then, my mother was home doing nothing. Now I'm in the city working, just as much as my husband is in the city working. So what now are we going? Now when we've got issues, we don't even go back home anymore, because now our parents don't really understand the dynamics that we are living in as the new generation, So I really, really believe that we should preserve culture, yes. However, we also need the laws to correct justice, especially when it comes to the wives.
Promise, but isn't that asserting what Kwa-Nobamba Zulu was saying that it feels like marriage now has become a transaction of sorts? Are you not validating that point?
Not really a transactional of some sort. It's just different dynamics now. It shouldn't really be we shouldn't really call it a transaction now, because women have evolved, because women have stepped in their power. Women have realized who they've always been,
Okay.
So name it. Sure. Sorry, we cannot name it to be transactional just because women have stepped in their power.
Mkhulu, do you have something to say on what Promise is saying? Her interactions are like, well, it doesn't mean it's just transactional, but because there's so many things that have changed in this day and age, there is reason and purpose for laws to assure that everyone is protected, whether or not those marriages end.
Yeah. First, the laws should be made by us as Africans. We're in parliament. So we need to strengthen the laws to support our culture and make sure that culture also becomes fair, to the vulnerable people, like our promise says, the women. Yeah, we all know their story. But we are in charge, we are in parliament now as Africans, and we keep borrowing, even if we can just make sure that our own laws suit our culture, but they still protect the vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, the reason why I keep saying, do people even know why they're getting married? Do people need marriage? Maybe we need to ask that question, because marriage has become so dodgy that people now need to protect themselves left, right, and center. It has no meaning anymore. What is marriage? Is it you are marrying someone because you need conjugal rights, or you are marrying someone because you just need a companion, someone to walk around with in the park? Kodwa ayikho into enihlanganisile, so what do we really get married? We need to ask ourselves that question as Africans, because we're getting more and more confused, and I can see how we're getting confused. In most cases, you see, our promise said culture evolves. Yeah, I understand culture evolves. Culture it must always suit that particular generation, right? But it doesn't mean it must change. It must be replaced by another culture. It must be strengthened. We need to be able to fix the things that are wrong so that it becomes fair to everyone, but it's still our culture. If you look at the nations that I've just quoted, your Jewish people, your Arabs, your Chinese and Asians and all that, they don't move away from their culture, but they make sure that slowly they are introducing the laws that protect the culture, but also protect the vulnerable and make sure that culture becomes fair. Most of the practices that we believed were culture were not really culture. They were brought by the colonial system, and we were made to believe that is our culture. Most of the practices came with the church, not with our culture. They came with the church. The people who segregate against women it's not our culture. It's the church. But nobody wants to talk about that thing, because the church is a colonial instrument that came to distract us and destroy every little thing that we have. So we all believe that now culture is the one that is wrong, whereas everything that we've been doing, even how we were doing our marriages, the reason why we end up doing two weddings, because the other one is cultural, the other is Western. It's the church that influences the white wedding. It's not our culture. So we need to unlearn certain things so that we can now look deep into our culture. Before I came here, I looked at the act, the Customary Marriage Act. It's so balanced, because it is now dealing with the issue of vulnerability, making sure that it protects our mothers. Yeah. Remember, I'm speaking as a man, but I have a mother. I have a sister who needs to be protected from this.
All right.
So when I marry my sister away, the expectation is that she will be treated fairly wherever she goes.
All right, I think we have to leave this one hanging because we've run out of time, unfortunately. But just quickly and very briefly, I want to come back to you quickly. Promise, let us know a little bit about your book in just 30 seconds. We need to go to the news.
So my book is really about a woman it's about identity, resilience, and purpose. A woman who stepped into her purpose. It's launching on the 6th of February in collaboration with the University of South Africa Library. So everybody can get the book on www.thebrokenpromise.co.za. Whether you are married, not married, divorced, in between, please get my book. It is a book that is going to help you navigate the stage that you are in as a woman. But Otherwise, see you at the book launch at UNISA.
All right, this debate is a bit of a cliffhanger because it's a lot of questions that are still unresolved. But thank you, Promise Makunyane, for giving us your time, author and podcast and also author. Mkhulu Zulu, thank you as well for always joining us with your insights, marriage counselor and founder of Kwa-Nobamba Family, Spiritual and Mental Wellness Institute. Let's quickly move on. Give us your thoughts via WhatsApp. But right now, let's get Musibudi back to give us the latest sports.
Sports on Channel Africa.
The African Perspective.